Take a deep breath. Let your shoulders drop away from your ears. Unclench your jaw. Allow yourself to sink deeper into the surface beneath you. Tonight, we are going to travel back in time. Not to a time of chaos, but to a time of elemental simplicity. We are going to a place where the world was vast, wild, and quiet. We are going to witness the turning of the seasons in the Middle Ages, a time when winter was a force so powerful it reshaped the very earth itself. But you are safe. You are warm. You are merely a watcher in the mist, observing the slow, majestic arrival of the deep cold. The story begins not with the snow, but with the ending of the gold. For weeks, the valley has been a riot of color, the burning russets of the oak trees, the fragile yellow of the birch, and the deep, dying crimson of the maples. But now, late November has arrived. The vibrant tapestry of autumn is beginning to fray, stripping away the decoration to reveal the skeleton of the world beneath. In the medieval world, there is no calendar on the wall to mark the exact day the season changes. There is only the feeling in the air. The wind, which had been a playful, rustling companion in October, has changed its voice. It no longer whispers. It begins to hum a lower, hollower note. It is the sound of the north, traveling across thousands of miles of empty ocean and dense, dark forests to reach this small collection of stone and timber that makes up the human world. The sun, the great giver of life, has become distant. In the summer, it was a lord that commanded the sky directly overhead. Now, it is a traveler passing quickly along the southern horizon. Its light is no longer the warm, golden butter of harvest time. It has turned into a pale, watery silver. It casts long, impossible shadows even at midday. The trees, now stripping themselves bare, look like ink drawings scratched against a sky that seems to be lowering itself, inch by inch, day by day. Let your mind's eye look upward. In the modern world, we ignore the sky. But here, in the 14th century, the sky is the ceiling of existence, and that ceiling is changing. The blue has been swallowed. In its place is a vast, seamless expanse of gray. It is not a storm, not yet. It is a heaviness. It is a distinct, oppressive, leaden quality, as if the clouds are made of heavy metal pressing down on the hilltops. This is the descending silence. It is a silence that you can feel in your ears. The birds, the chattels of spring and the singers of summer have largely vanished. The swallows are gone. The geese have long since dragged their V formation southward, their honking cries fading into memory. What remains are the crows and the ravens, the black guardians of winter. They sit motionless on the bare branches of the elms, feathers fluffed against the dropping temperature, watching the world turn to stone. They do not call out. They simply wait. They know what is coming. There is a stillness in the air that is almost reverent. It is the stillness of a world holding its breath. The chaotic buzzing of insects, the drone of bees, the chirp of crickets, that constant soundtrack of life has been extinguished. The silence is absolute. It amplifies the smallest sounds. The snapping of a dried twig under a deer's hoof echoes like a pistol shot in the valley. The rustle of a dried leaf skittering across the flagstones sounds like footsteps. Now, look down at the ground. This is where the true brutality begins to show its face, long before the first blizzard. For months, the roads connecting the villages and the castles have been rivers of mud. The autumn rains turned the dirt tracks into deep, sucking quagmires. Wagon wheels carved deep ruts, 2 feet deep in places, churning the earth into a thick brown soup. But tonight, the temperature is dropping. It is a slow, relentless descent. As the sun dips below the horizon, the air tightens. The moisture in the ground begins to crystallize. Imagine the sound of footsteps on this changing earth. Yesterday, a boot would have squelched, sinking into the soft, wet clay. Today, the ground fights back. The mud is freezing. Those deep ruts, carving scars across the landscape, are hardening into iron. The ridges of the earth are becoming jagged and solid. To walk on a medieval road in late November is to walk on the ribs of a giant skeleton. The ground is unforgiving. It has no give. If a traveler were to trip, the earth would not catch them softly. It would strike them like stone. This hardening is the first lock turning in the prison of winter. Travel is becoming difficult. Horses stumble on the uneven frozen peaks of the mud. The wagons rattle and shake, their wooden wheels clattering loudly against the frozen earth, a sound that carries for miles in the thin, cold air. The world is solidifying. The fluid ease of movement is gone. And the sensory details of frost. As the twilight deepens into true night, the first great frost arrives. It is not a gentle dusting. It is a seizure of the landscape. You can smell it. The air loses the scent of damp earth and rotting leaves. It becomes odorless, sterile, and sharp. It is a scent that stings the inside of the nose. It smells of ozone and cold stone. When you inhale, you feel the chill travel down your throat, settling in your lungs, reminding you that your body warmth is a borrowed luxury. Watch the frost form. It begins on the blades of grass in the darker corners of the meadow. Slowly, geometric patterns of ice weave themselves over the green. It is a creeping silver lace. It coats the wooden fences, turning the rough brown timber into glittering bars of silver. It creeps up the stone walls of the keep, finding purchase in the moss and lichen, turning them into frozen sculptures. There is a beauty in this brutality. Under the light of a waxing moon, the world begins to sparkle. The hardened mud roads glitter as if dusted with diamond dust. The bare branches of the willows by the river are coated in white, looking like veins of lightning frozen against the dark sky. But do not be deceived by the beauty. This frost is a weapon. It seeks out water, and it freezes it. In the village, a bucket of water left outside the door is no longer liquid. A thin skin of ice forms on the surface, trapping bubbles of air beneath it. By morning, it will be a solid block. The water in the troughs for the animals is glazing over. The world is becoming rigid. And the human reaction. In the distance, you see the small, flickering lights of humanity. A cottage here, a manor house there. The people know what this sky means. They know what this silence foretells. There is a shift in the human rhythm. In the summer, life was lived outdoors. Doors were left open to catch the breeze. Labor continued until the last light of the long days. But now, the circle of life is shrinking. It is contracting inward toward the hearth. You can see the final, hurried movements of preparation. A figure moves across a farmyard, breath billowing out in white clouds, distinct puffs of steam that vanish into the night. They are carrying wood, not just a bundle, but a heavy load. They know that tonight the fire must not go out. The sound of an axe splitting wood rings out, thwack, 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 rhythmic and desperate. It is the sound of survival.
Every log is a promise of warmth. Every stack of kindling is a shield against the encroaching night. Windows, which in this time are often just open slits in the wall or covered with oiled linen or heavy wooden shutters, are being sealed. You hear the heavy thud of wooden shutters being pulled closed and barred. The world outside is being shut away. The descending silence is not just nature quieting down, it is humanity retreating. The transition is psychological as well. As the gray sky lowered today, a solemnity fell over the people. There is no more idle chatter at the well. There is no lingering in the fields. The cold demands efficiency. You move from the woodpile to the door. You move from the barn
To the house, you do not stop. To stop is to let the cold win, the atmosphere of the coming brutality. Why was this called brutal? Because there was no escape. There was no thermostat to turn up. There was no electric blanket. As the frost descends tonight, it seeks out every crack in the wattle and daub walls. It pushes its way through the gaps in the roof tiles. The silence is heavy because it is indifferent. The medieval winter does not care if you have enough wood. It does not care if your harvest was lean. The gray sky is a judge that offers no pardon. Imagine standing on a hill overlooking this medieval landscape. The world is draining of color. The greens are gone, replaced by blacks, browns, and the spectral white of the frost. The river in the valley bottom is sluggish. The edges are beginning to form jagged teeth of ice, reaching out from the banks, trying to choke the flow of the water. The air is so clear now that the stars look sharp and threatening. They are not the soft, twinkling lights of a summer romance. They are hard, cold diamonds staring down from the void. They look further away than ever before. The physical sensation. If you were standing there, wrapped in a heavy wool cloak, you would feel the weight of the air. It presses against the layers of your clothing. It finds the skin of your face, your hands, the only parts of you exposed to the world. It feels like a physical touch, a numbing caress that slowly strips away feeling. Your fingertips would tingle, then ache, then go silent. You would pull your cloak tighter. You would feel the rough texture of the wool, the smell of the lanolin, the only barrier between you and the descending night. You would stamp your feet on the hard, ringing earth to keep the blood moving. And then you would look at the sky one last time. That heavy gray blanket has swallowed the moon. The light is fading. The silence is complete. It is a silence that says the easy days are over. The sun has retreated. The stone is cold. The earth is iron. Transition to sleep. But you are not standing on that frozen hill. You are merely drifting through the memory of it. You can feel the concept of the cold without the bite. You can visualize the silver frost without the shiver. As the medieval world locks its doors and shutters its windows against this descending silence, you are safe in your own time. You are warm. The blanket over you is soft, not rough wool. The air in your room is still and comfortable. Let the image of the gray, heavy sky fade into a soft, comforting darkness behind your eyelids. Let the sound of the wind howling through the bare branches soften into a gentle, rhythmic hum. The earth outside may be hardening, preparing for the brutality of the deep freeze. But here, in this moment, everything is soft. The transition is complete. Autumn has left the stage.
The curtain of winter has fallen. And as the first snowflakes begin to form high up in those leaden clouds, invisible in the dark, the world waits. The fortress of stone waits. The sleepers in their beds wait. Drifting, drifting, watching the frost settle, watching the shadows lengthen, listening to the silence. The silence is not empty. It is a blanket of its own, a heavy, quiet blanket that covers the world, urging it to sleep, just as you are doing now. The brutality is out there, but peace is in here. Introduction: the looming shadow. Let the image of the frozen landscape fade into the background. We are moving closer now. Rising out of the hardening mist, a shape begins to materialize. It is vast. It is dark. It is a silhouette that blocks out the gray sky. It is the castle. In the modern world, our homes are light. They are made of wood, glass, and drywall, materials that feel temporary, porous. But here, in the depths of the Middle Ages, the sanctuary is built of the earth itself. It is a fortress of stone. Imagine standing at the base of these walls. They rise up 50, 60, 80 feet into the freezing air. They are not smooth. They are scarred and weathered, built from massive blocks of limestone and granite, hewn from the quarry by hands long since gone. As the winter descends, this structure stops being merely a home for a lord. It transforms into a man-made mountain, standing defiant against the elements. The nature of the stone. To understand the brutality of a medieval winter, you must understand the nature of stone. Stone is ancient, it is patient, but it is also a vessel. For the last few months, as the autumn sun grew weaker, these massive walls have been losing their heat. In the height of summer, the stone walls were cool to the touch, a refreshing respite from the heat. But now they have changed their allegiance. They have drunk deep of the November chill. The cold does not just sit on the surface of the castle. It seeps into the very pores of the masonry. It travels inch by inch through the 6-foot-thick walls. The castle has become a battery of cold. It holds the freezing temperature within its mass. Reach out in your mind and run your hand along the exterior wall. It is rough, like the skin of a dormant dragon. The moss that clings to the crevices is frozen stiff, brittle to the touch. The stone feels harder now than it did in summer. The molecular structure seems to have tightened. It is unyielding. This is the barrier between the fragile human life inside and the merciless winter outside. The architecture of isolation. Let us move toward the gatehouse. The architecture here speaks of defense. These castles were built to withstand armies, to repel arrows and battering rams. But tonight, the enemy is not human. The enemy is the wind. The enemy is the frost, and the castle is ready. The windows are few and far between. In the lower levels, they are mere slits, arrow loops designed to let an archer fire out, but not to let an enemy in. In winter, these narrow openings serve a different purpose. They minimize the entry of the biting wind. From the outside, the castle looks blind. It is a closed fist. Crossing the drawbridge, the timber planks rumble beneath your feet, a hollow, wooden sound that echoes over the frozen moat below. The water in the moat is already glazing over, a dark mirror turning to ice. You pass under the heavy iron portcullis, its teeth hanging above you like stalactites. You pass through the tunnel of the gatehouse, where the air is still and damp. And then you enter the courtyard. The inner world. Inside the walls, the wind changes. Outside, on the open plains, the wind was a wild, horizontal force that tore at your clothes. Here, inside the fortress, the wind is broken. The high walls sever the gale, leaving only a swirling, confused breeze in the courtyard. It is quieter here. The roar of the storm is muffled, reduced to a distant moaning sound high above the battlements. You are in the belly of the beast now. But the isolation is palpable. When the heavy oak gates boom shut behind you, barring the entrance with a thick beam of timber, you are cut off. There is no leaving. The roads are frozen. The night is coming. The castle is a self-contained world floating in a sea of winter. The chill of the corridors. Let us walk inside the keep, the central tower. You push open a heavy door reinforced with iron bands. It groans on its hinges, the sound of metal on metal, cold and stiff. You step into the corridor.
The air inside a medieval castle in winter has a specific quality. It is still, yes, but it is also heavy with the scent of the past. It smells of damp stone, of old straw, of the soot from tallow candles, and the faint, metallic tang of cold iron. As you walk down the hallway, your footsteps echo, tap, 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 against the flagstone floor. There is no carpet here. The cold radiates up through the soles of your boots. The walls here are sweating. This is a phenomenon unique to these great stone beasts. As the temperature fluctuates, condensation forms on the cold interior blocks. The walls glisten in the dim light. They feel clammy, as if the castle itself is shivering. There is no central heating to push the air around. The air in the corridors is stagnant. You can see your breath in front of you, a small cloud of life in the massive, indifferent hallway. The temperature in these passageways is barely higher than outside. The only difference is the lack of wind. To walk from one room to another is a journey through the cold. You must wrap your cloak tight, pulling the fur collar up to your ears, moving quickly through the shadows to reach the next pocket of warmth. The shadows and the light. The windows in the corridors are deep tunnels through the thick walls. The glass, if there is glass at all, is thick, distorted, and green-tinted. It offers no view of the outside, only a vague, milky light that fades rapidly as the sun sets. Shadows in a winter fortress are long and deep. The stone seems to absorb the light. A single torch flickering in a sconce on the wall casts wild, dancing shapes against the vaulted ceiling. The darkness feels substantial, as if it is hiding in the corners, waiting. But this darkness also brings a sense of slumber. The castle feels like a cave. It triggers a primal instinct in the human brain. We are cave dwellers at heart. When we are surrounded by thick rock, with the entrance sealed, our nervous system begins to downshift. We feel hidden. We feel secret. The brutality of the winter is kept at bay by sheer mass. The wind may howl and scream, battering itself against the northern tower, but the stone does not tremble. It does not creak like a wooden house. It is silent. It creates a bubble of stillness. You enter a chamber now, a room prepared for living. Here, you see the medieval solution to the brutality of the stone, the tapestry. In the modern world, we view tapestries as art, but in this winter fortress, they are engineering. They are insulation. Look at the walls of this chamber. They are hung from floor to ceiling with heavy, woven wool. Scenes of hunts, of mythical beasts, of knights and ladies are depicted in faded greens and reds. But reach out and touch the fabric. It is thick, heavy. Between the tapestry and the cold stone wall there is a gap of air. This air pocket acts as a barrier. The tapestry traps the radiant cold coming off the stone, preventing it from sucking the heat out of the room. The room feels softer because of them. The acoustic harshness of the stone is dampened. The voice does not echo here. It is absorbed by the wool. It feels intimate. It feels like a nest lined with fur tucked deep inside a cliff face. The protective weight. There is a strange comfort in the weight of the architecture. Lying in a bed within these walls, you feel the millions of pounds of stone surrounding you. In a modern storm, a house can feel fragile. You worry about the roof shingles. You worry about the windows rattling. But here, the storm is irrelevant. The castle has stood for 300 years. It has seen blizzards that buried the villages. It has seen ice storms that snapped oaks in half. It has not moved. This sense of permanence is the antidote to the anxiety of the brutal winter. The world outside is chaotic, changing, dying, and freezing, but the fortress of stone is constant. It provides a psychological anchor. You are held within the palm of history, the fire and the draft. Even in this sanctuary, the battle between heat and cold is constant. You notice the drafts. The air in a castle is always moving, seeking equilibrium. A draft snakes across the floor, chilling your ankles. It comes from under the door, a messenger from the cold corridors. It reminds you that warmth is a luxury that must be maintained. But this makes the warmth you do have feel so much sweeter. A fire is burning in the great hearth of the chamber. We will speak more of the fire later, but for now, observe how the light of the flames licks against the stone arch of the fireplace. The stone warms up. If you were to sit on the hearthstone, you would feel the heat soaking into the rock, creating a small island of tropical warmth in a sea of chill. And conclusion, the safety of the keep. As the night fully descends outside, the castle locks down. The sounds of the day, the clanking of armor, the shouting of the guards fade away. The fortress of stone settles into its nightly vigil. Imagine yourself in one of the upper rooms of the tower. You are safe behind 6 feet of limestone. You are safe behind heavy oak shutters. You are safe behind velvet curtains. The cold is pressing against the castle from all sides. It is trying to find a way in. It pushes against the north wall. It piles snow against the gate. It freezes the gargoyles on the roof. But it cannot reach you. You are the pearl inside the oyster. The shell is rough, cold, and hard, scarred by the ocean of winter. But inside, it is smooth. It is calm. The massive weight of the walls, which seemed so intimidating at first, now feels like a heavy blanket. A stone blanket. It presses down on the world, quieting the chaos. The fortress is not just a building. It is a promise. A promise that no matter how brutal the wind becomes, no matter how deep the snow falls, this place will stand. The silence of the stones seeps into you now. Not the cold, but the stillness, the stability. You are as unmoving as the tower itself. The worries of the world deflect off these walls just like the wind. You are deep inside, hidden, protected. The stone guards your sleep. The stone holds the night at bay. Drifting deeper now, into the safety of the fortress. The walls are strong. You can let go. You can rest. The fortress stands watch, so you do not have to.
Leave the heavy stillness of the stone walls behind for a moment. We must step out. We must step into the element that rules the medieval winter. We are stepping into the domain of the air. Tonight, the air is not empty space. It is a physical force. It is the north wind. In the ancient texts, they called him Boreas, the bringer of winter, the devourer of warmth. Imagine the map of the world in your mind. Far to the north, across the icy caps, across the frozen wastes of the tundra, a great pressure is building. It gathers its strength over the white oceans where no ship sails. It rolls south, gathering speed, unimpeded by skyscrapers or city blocks. It rushes over the dark forests of pine and fir, and finally, it arrives here. In the medieval world, there is no escaping it. It is the breath of the season. And tonight, it has teeth. The sound of the approach. You hear it before you feel it. Listen closely. In a modern city, the wind is broken up by buildings. It is a confused, chopping sound. But here, in the open countryside of the Middle Ages, the wind has a voice. It is a long, uninterrupted note. It starts as a low moan in the distance, rolling over the hills. It sounds like the earth itself is sighing. As it gets closer, the pitch rises. It begins to whistle. It sings through the bare branches of the oak trees, a high, thin, reedy sound, like a bow being drawn across a violin string made of ice. This is the music of the winter night. It is the soundtrack to every dream and every waking moment for the people of this time. It creates a feeling of being small, of being surrounded by something vast and uncontrollable. The assault on the timber houses. Now let us float down from the castle to the village below. Here the brutality of the wind is felt most intimately. The houses here are not made of 6-foot thick stone. They are made of timber, wattle, and daub, woven sticks covered in clay and mud. To the north wind, these houses are merely obstacles to be tested. Imagine you are inside one of these humble dwellings. The roof is thatched with straw, layered thick to keep out the wet. But the wind likes to play with the thatch. You can hear it rustling above your head, picking at the loose straws, trying to find a way in. It sounds like tiny footsteps running across the roof. There is no modern insulation here. There is no fiberglass pink batting in the walls. There is no Tyvek wrap. There is only the mud and the wood standing between you and the freezing gale. And the wind finds the cracks. Wood is a living material. It expands in summer and contracts in winter. As the temperature plummets tonight, the timber beams of the house shrink, pulling away from the clay. Hairline cracks open up. The wind finds them. It whistles through the chinks in the wall. Inside the cottage, the air is never truly still. You can feel the drafts. They are like invisible snakes slithering across the dirt floor, curling around your ankles. Watch the candle on the rough wooden table. The flame does not stand straight. It dances. It flickers violently, bowing down and then jumping back up, casting wild, jerky shadows against the wall. This is the visual proof of the wind's intrusion. The bite is inside the room with you. The people huddle closer to the central hearth. They pull their wool blankets up over their heads. They sleep with their backs to the walls, facing the fire, creating a human shield against the drafts. The house creaks and groans around them. The timber frame shifts under the pressure of the gusts. It is a ship at sea, riding the waves of the winter air. But if the villagers are uncomfortable, there is one soul who knows the true definition of brutality tonight. Shift your perspective upward. Go back to the castle. Go to the highest point, the battlements. Here stands the sentry. He is a figure wrapped in layers of boiled wool and leather, but he is standing completely exposed. There is no glass window to stand behind. There is no heater. There is only the stone parapet, waist high, and the open sky. Up here, the wind is not just a draft, It is a physical assault. It hits the wall and shoots upward, creating a vortex of freezing air. The sentry feels the bite in a way we can scarcely imagine today. It begins with the nose and the ears. The wind strips away the boundary layer of heat that the body tries to create. It feels like sandpaper rubbing against the skin. The skin goes red, then stings, and finally, it goes numb. It feels like wearing a mask of clay. He pulls his cloak tighter. The wind catches the heavy fabric, snapping it like a whip. Crack, crack. The sound of the fabric flapping is loud and violent. He tries to stand still, but the wind pushes him. It buffets his chest. He has to lean into it just to stay upright. The cold seeps through the leather of his boots. The stone beneath him is freezing, and the wind wraps around his legs, stealing the heat from his blood. He holds a spear, but the shaft is freezing. The iron tip collects frost. If he were to touch the metal with a bare hand, his skin would stick to it. Why is this brutal? Because time stops. When you are this cold, minutes feel like hours. He looks out into the darkness, eyes watering from the sting of the air. The tears freeze on his eyelashes, making them heavy and sticky. He blinks, clearing his vision, watching for enemies that will likely not come tonight, for who else would be out in this? His enemy is the air itself. He stomps his feet, tump, 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 trying to force life back into his toes. He blows into his cupped hands, the steam of his breath instantly ripped away by the gale, disappearing over the castle wall into the void. The physics of the chill. Let's pause and appreciate the lack of technology. In our time, we have conquered the wind. We have double-paned glass filled with argon gas. We have weather stripping. We can watch a blizzard from a window and feel nothing but the warmth of a radiator. But in the Middle Ages, the barrier between inside and outside was thin. The wind was a thief. It stole everything. It stole the heat from the soup the moment it was poured into the bowl. It stole the warmth from the bedclothes. It stole the moisture from the skin, leaving lips cracked and bleeding. The bite refers to this active aggression. It wasn't just that the air was cold, it was that the air was moving. Wind chill is a modern term, but a medieval reality. At 0 degrees, calm air is survivable. But add a 20-mile-per-hour wind, the kind howling around the sentry right now, and the air feels like it is 20 degrees below zero. It penetrates. It bypasses the wool. It finds the bone.
The landscape scoured. Look out beyond the wall. The wind is sculpting the landscape. The trees are the greatest victims. The mighty oaks, stripped of their leaves, are groaning. You can hear the wood straining. A large branch, frozen brittle, snaps with a sound like a cannon shot, crack, and falls to the hard earth. The wind picks up the loose snow. It does not fall gently, it travels horizontally. It becomes a scouring powder. It hisses as it moves across the frozen mud. It piles up in drifts against the windward side of the barns, sealing doors shut, burying the carts. The river, which we saw freezing earlier, is now being polished. The wind sweeps the snow off the ice, leaving it black and gleaming like obsidian. It is a world in motion. Nothing is allowed to rest. The wind shakes the shutters, it rattles the iron hinges, it howls down the chimneys. The song of the chimney. Ah, the chimney. In the great hall, the fire is roaring, but the wind wants in there too. Listen to the sound of the wind fighting the fire. It blows across the top of the chimney stack. It creates a vacuum, sucking the smoke up, making the fire roar louder. But then, a sudden gust pushes down. A puff of smoke billows back into the room. The scent of wood smoke fills the air, acrid and comforting at the same time. The wind whistles a low, mournful note in the flue. Hoo-woo, hoo-woo.
It sounds like a ghost trapped in the stonework. It is a reminder that even by the fire, you are connected to the storm outside. The separation is fragile. The contrast, you are safe. But now, step back. Step away from the freezing sentry. Step away from the drafty cottage. Step away from the howling darkness. Feel the stillness of your own room. The air around you is not moving. There are no drafts seeking you out. The windows of your room are sealed tight. The wind may be blowing outside your home in the modern world, but it has no power over you. You are not fighting the elements. You are not huddled under a sheepskin waiting for the dawn. You are suspended in a perfect, climate-controlled sanctuary. Let the description of that medieval wind make you feel heavier in your bed. Imagine that biting cold is a wolf pacing outside your door, but it cannot get in. You are safe. The howling of the wind in the story becomes a lullaby. It is a white noise. The relentlessness of the gale outside only emphasizes the peace inside. Conclusion. The sentry continues his watch, turning his back to the wind, pulling his collar up. The villagers huddle together, sharing warmth. The trees sway and creak. But the wind eventually passes. The landscape scoured. Look out beyond the wall. The wind is sculpting the landscape. The trees are the greatest victims. The mighty oaks, stripped of their leaves, are groaning. You can hear the wood straining. A large branch, frozen brittle, snaps with a sound like a cannon shot, crack, and falls to the hard earth. The wind picks up the loose snow. It does not fall gently, it travels horizontally. It becomes a scouring powder. It hisses as it moves across the frozen mud. It piles up and drifts against the windward side of the barns, sealing doors shut, burying the carts. The river, which we saw freezing earlier, is now being polished. The wind sweeps the snow off the ice, leaving it black and gleaming, like obsidian. It is a world in motion. Nothing is allowed to rest. The wind shakes the shutters. It rattles the iron hinges. It howls down the chimneys. The song of the chimney. Ah, the chimney. In the great hall, the fire is roaring, but the wind wants in there too. Listen to the sound of the wind fighting the fire. It blows across the top of the chimney stack. It creates a vacuum, sucking up the smoke, making the fire roar louder. But then a sudden gust pushes down. A puff of smoke billows back into the room. The scent of wood smoke fills the air, acrid and comforting at the same time. The wind whistles a low, mournful note in the flue. Hoo, hoo. It sounds like a ghost trapped in the stonework. It is a reminder that even by the fire, you are connected to the storm outside. The separation is fragile. The contrast, you are safe. But now, step back. Step away from the freezing sentry. Step away from the drafty cottage. Step away from the howling darkness. Feel the stillness of your own room. The air around you is not moving. There are no drafts seeking you out. The windows of your room are sealed tight. The wind may be blowing outside your home in the modern world, but it has no power over you. You are not fighting the elements. You are not huddled under a sheepskin waiting for the dawn. You are suspended in a perfect, climate-controlled sanctuary. Let the description of that medieval wind make you feel heavier in your bed. Imagine that biting cold is a wolf pacing outside your door, but it cannot get in. You are safe. The howling of the wind in the story becomes a lullaby. It is a white noise. The relentlessness of the gale outside only emphasizes the peace inside. The sentry continues his watch, turning his back to the wind, pulling his collar up. The villagers huddle together, sharing warmth. The trees sway and creak. But the wind eventually passes. Even the fiercest gale must run out of breath. As we move deeper into the night, the wind begins to die down. The howling fades to a whisper. The whisper fades to a silence. The bite softens. What remains is the cold, but the violence of the air settles. The world has been scoured clean. The stillness returns, deeper than before. You can rest now. The wind has blown itself out. The walls held. The shelter survived. Drifting, drifting, the air is still. The night is quiet. You are warm. So very warm.
The howling wind from the night before has finally exhausted itself. The storm has passed. Now a new day breaks over the medieval world. But this is not a morning of bright, easy sunshine. It is a morning of white silence. Open your mind's eye to the scene. The world has been erased. The familiar landmarks, the fences, the stone walls, the path to the well have all been smoothed over by a thick, heavy blanket of snow. It is deep. It drifts halfway up the doors of the cottages. It caps the castle towers like white wool. In the modern world, a snowy morning is an inconvenience, or perhaps a reason to stay in bed with a warm drink. But in the Middle Ages, this silence is an alarm bell. The cold has deepened in the night. The temperature has plummeted, and inside the thick stone walls or the timber cabins, the reality of the morning hits you the moment you open your eyes. The fire is dead. The death of the fire. There is a specific biting scent to a room where a fire has died. It smells of cold ash and soot. During the night, while the household slept, the last log crumbled into embers, and the embers faded into gray dust. The heat, which was the heartbeat of the home, has stopped. You lie under your heavy furs, and you can see your breath. It rises in rhythmic white plumes, hovering in the stagnant air of the room. The tip of your nose is freezing. To leave the bed is to enter a hostile environment. But you must. There is no thermostat to adjust. There is no switch to flip. In this brutal era, heat is not a utility. Heat is a labor. Heat is a struggle. Heat is something you must wrestle from the earth with your own two hands every single day. The preparation for the harvest. You rise. The floorboards are freezing against your feet. You pull on your boots, stiff leather that has hardened in the cold. You wrap your cloak around you, layering wool upon wool, tying the sash tight to trap whatever body heat you have left. You unbar the door. It is heavy. You have to shove it hard against the drift of snow that is piled up against it during the night. With a grinding crunch, the wood gives way and the door swings open. The light is blinding. The sun is reflecting off the millions of ice crystals in the snow. The air is so sharp it feels like inhaling broken glass. It wakes you up instantly. You look at the woodpile next to the house. It is low. The storm last night demanded a heavy toll. The logs you chopped 2 days ago are gone, turned into smoke and memory. And so the struggle begins. You cannot simply buy warmth. You must go out and find it. The journey into the deep snow. You pick up the axe. The handle is smooth, worn by years of grip, but the iron head is frozen. It feels heavy in your hand, a tool of survival. You step out. Crunch. Your boot sinks deep. The snow is up to your knees.
This is not the fluffy snow of a holiday card. This is heavy, wet, dense packing snow. Every step is an effort. You have to lift your leg high, breaking the crust, and push down. Lift, step, sink, lift, step, sink. Your heart begins to beat faster, not from fear, but from the sheer exertion of movement. The forest lies a mile away. In the summer, this walk takes 10 minutes. Today, in this deep freeze, it is an expedition. The landscape is paralyzed. The river is a ribbon of white. The birds are silent. The only sound in the entire world is your own breathing, heavy and rhythmic, and the sound of your movement through the snow. The forest of ice. You reach the tree line. The forest is a cathedral of cold. The trees are coated in ice. The branches of the birch trees bow low, touching the ground, weighed down by the snow. They look like old men hunching against the cold. You are looking for specific prey. You cannot cut a green tree. Green wood is full of sap and water. It will not burn. It will only hiss and smoke, mocking your need for warmth. You need dead wood. You need the fallen. You spot a large oak branch that has snapped under the weight of the snow and fallen across a bush. It is dry. It is perfect. But it is encased in ice. The labor of the axe. You approach the wood. You wipe the snow from the bark. You ready the axe. Thwack. The sound rings out, sharp and flat in the dead air. It echoes through the silent trees. Thwack, thwack. The wood is frozen hard. It resists the blade. In the summer, wood splits easily. In the winter, the fibers are tight and tough. The vibration of the impact travels up the handle and jars your elbows. You swing again and again. This is the brutality of the medieval winter. It is the calorie cost. To get warm, you must burn energy. You are sweating now under your layers of wool. This is dangerous. If you stop moving, that sweat will freeze against your skin. You must keep working. You chop the branch into manageable lengths. You gather smaller sticks for kindling, frozen twigs that snap like glass in your gloved hands. Your fingers are beginning to numb. The cold is seeping through the leather gloves. It attacks the extremities first. You stop for a moment to blow on your hands, the steam billowing around your face, but the cold is relentless. It waits for no one. The burden of the return. Now comes the haul. You take a length of rough hemp rope and tie the wood into a bundle, a faggot as it was called. It is heavy. Green oak is dense, but even this dry wood has weight. You hoist the bundle onto your back. The rough bark digs into your shoulder through the cloak. You adjust the weight, and you turn back toward home. The return journey is harder. You are tired now. Your legs burn from the high stepping through the drifts. The bundle throws off your balance. You slip on a patch of hidden ice beneath the snow. You stumble, catching yourself, gasping for air. The cold air burns your throat. You look at the distant chimney of your home. There is no smoke. That is the motivator. The cold house is waiting. The freezing family is waiting. You are the bringer of fire. Every step is a battle against gravity and friction. The wind begins to pick up again, just a little, swirling the loose snow around your boots. It stings your cheeks. You lower your head, gritting your teeth, putting one foot in front of the other. Crunch, drag, crunch, drag. The precious nature of the fuel. As you walk, think about the value of what you are carrying. In our time, we pay a bill at the end of the month, rarely thinking about the source of our heat. But in the Middle Ages, a log was not just a piece of wood, it was a unit of life. One large log might buy you 2 hours of comfort. One bundle of sticks might cook one meal.
This load on your back represents survival for another day, perhaps two. There was a constant anxiety in the medieval mind. Do we have enough? To look at a dwindling woodpile in January was to look death in the face. If the wood ran out and the snow was too deep to travel, the cold would simply walk through the door and take you. This made the wood precious. People would burn animal dung, dried peat, even old furniture if they had to. But nothing burned like the oak you are carrying now. It contains the trapped energy of the summer sun, ready to be released. The sanctuary of the hearth. You reach the door. You drop the bundle with a heavy thud on the stone doorstep. Your shoulders ache. Your legs are trembling slightly from the effort. You bring the wood inside. The transition is stark. The air inside is still freezing, but it is still. Now, the ritual of the resurrection begins. You cannot simply flick a lighter. You must coax the fire back to life. You kneel on the hearthstone. The stone is cold against your knees. You rake through the gray ashes of last night's fire. You are looking for a sleeper, a tiny glowing ember hidden deep in the ash. If you find one, a tiny pulsing eye of red, you are lucky. You gently place the dry moss and birch bark you gathered around it. You blow, softly. The ash flies up. The ember glows brighter. It catches the moss. A tiny line of smoke appears. Then a small tongue of yellow flame. If there is no ember, you must use flint and steel. Click, spark, click, spark. You strike the metal against the stone, praying for a spark to land on the charred linen tinder. It requires patience. Your hands are shaking from the cold, making it harder. But finally, it happens. The flame takes hold. The return of the warmth. You feed the fire, first the twigs, then the smaller branches. The fire crackles, a sharp popping sound that is the most comforting noise in the world. Then you place the logs you fought for, the ones you dragged through the snow. The fire licks around the bark. It accepts the offering. The yellow flames turn to orange and blue. The wood begins to hiss as the heat penetrates it. And then the heat hits you. It radiates outward from the hearth. It is a physical wave. It touches your frozen face. It thaws the ice on your eyebrows. You peel off your wet gloves and hold your hands out toward the flames. The sensation is intense. The blood rushes back into your fingers, stinging at first, then throbbing with warmth. You feel your muscles unlock. The tension of the cold melts away. The smell of the room changes. The scent of cold ash is replaced by the rich aromatic smell of burning oak. It is a primitive, earthy scent. It smells of safety, reflecting on the struggle. Sit there for a moment by this imaginary fire. Watch the flames dance. This heat feels different because it was earned. It was paid for with sweat and struggle. In the Middle Ages, you didn't take warmth for granted because you knew the cost. You knew that outside, the snow was still falling. You knew the forest was still frozen. But here, in this small circle of light, you had won a temporary victory against the brutality of the season. The fire roars now. The chimney draws the smoke up and away. The stone of the hearth begins to warm up, radiating the heat back into the room. The shadows of the room are pushed back. Transition to your reality. Now, let this scene drift away. Let the image of the snow-covered forest fade. Let the heavy weight of the wood bundle lift from your shoulders. Come back to your own bed. Feel the warmth that surrounds you right now. You did not have to walk through waist-deep snow to get it. You did not have to chop wood with frozen hands. You did not have to strike flint against steel. The heat in your room is silent and constant.
It is a gift of your time. But you can still feel the gratitude of that medieval traveler. You can borrow that feeling of deep, bone-settling relief. Imagine that you have just returned from the cold. Imagine you have just sat down by that roaring fire. Feel that same wave of relaxation washing over you. Your work is done. The struggle is over. The brutality of the winter is locked outside. You are safe. You are warm. The fire is burning. The wood is stocked. Let the crackle of the imaginary fire lull you. The rhythm of the flames is hypnotic, flickering, warming, glowing. Sleep now, knowing that the fire will not go out. You can rest. Deep, warm, restorative rest. The cold is far, far away. Leave the warmth of the hearth behind for a moment. Do not worry. You are merely a ghost traveling through time. The cold cannot cut you. You are simply observing. We are floating out of the window, rising above the village, rising above the castle. From this height, you can see the true extent of the medieval winter. It is not just a weather event. It is a geological transformation. The world below you has been locked in ice. The colors of the earth have been banished. The browns of the mud, the greens of the moss, the grays of the stone, all have been swallowed by a blinding, seamless white. But it is the ice that captures our attention tonight. The temperature has remained below freezing for weeks. The world has ceased to be fluid. It has become solid. It is a sculpture carved from crystal and frost. The air is so still, so cold, that it feels as if time itself has frozen, trapped in a block of amber, waiting for a spring that feels like it may never come. The river, the treacherous highway. Look down at the river. In the summer, this was the artery of life. It flowed blue and brown, carrying barges of wool and grain, turning the water wheels of the mills. It was noisy, rushing, alive. Now it is silent. It is a long, winding ribbon of white and gray. In the Middle Ages, when the mud roads became impassable ruts of frozen iron, the river became a new kind of road. It became an ice highway. Imagine standing on the bank. The ice is thick, perhaps a foot deep. It is not smooth like a modern skating rink. It is rough, textured, and scarred. The wind has blown snow across it, creating drifts that look like frozen waves. Travelers use this ice. You can see the marks of sledge runners, two parallel lines cut into the surface, trailing off into the misty distance. You can see the hoof prints of horses, shod with special iron spikes to grip the slippery surface. But this highway is alive, and it is dangerous. Walk out onto the ice in your mind. Listen. Groan. The river is fighting its constraints. Deep below the ice, the water still flows, dark and pressurized. As the temperature shifts, the ice expands and contracts. It makes sounds that are unearthly. It pings like a taut wire being struck. It booms like a distant drum. For a medieval traveler, crossing this river was a terrifying act of faith. Every step was a question. Will it hold? You can visualize a merchant and his cart moving slowly across the center of the frozen expanse. He walks next to his horse, not riding it, to spread the weight. He listens to the ice singing beneath his feet. He looks at the black spiderweb cracks that run deep into the transparency. He knows that the water below is black, freezing, and swift. To fall through is to disappear. This is the brutality of travel. The very path you walk on is a sleeping monster. But from where you are, safe, warm, and dry, the danger feels distant. It merely adds a thrill to the silence. You can appreciate the majestic power of the freeze without the fear of the fall. The stillness of the forests. Leave the river now. Drift toward the forest. If the river is a place of tension, the forest is a place of absolute crushing silence. The trees are no longer swaying. They are rigid. The sap inside them has slowed to a halt. They are in a state of suspended animation. The evergreens, the firs, and the pines are the only touches of color, deep dark greens almost black against the snow. Their branches are heavy, laden with mounds of white powder. When a medieval winter truly set in, the forest became a crypt of nature. There is no rustling of leaves. There is no scampering of squirrels. The animals are deep underground, curled into tight balls of fur, their heartbeats slowed to a rhythm barely sustaining life. To travel through these woods is to intrude on a holy silence. The snow absorbs sound. If you were to shout, your voice would not echo. It would be swallowed instantly by the drifts. This acoustic deadness creates a feeling of isolation that is profound. Imagine walking a path through these trees. The snow here is untouched, save for the tracks of a lone wolf or a desperate deer. The trees loom over you, their bare branches interlocking like the arches of a ruined cathedral. Icicles hang from the limbs, long and sharp as daggers, glittering in the pale, watery light of the sun. The air in the forest is different. It is stagnant. It smells of pine needles and deep, ancient frost. It is a clean, sharp smell, the smell of a world that has been sterilized by the cold. The dangerous endeavor of travel. In our modern world, we complain if our flight is delayed by an hour. In the Middle Ages, a journey of 10 miles in January could cost you your life. Why would anyone leave the safety of the hearth? Necessity. A message must be sent. A doctor must be fetched. Food must be traded. And so, the traveler steps out into this world locked in ice. The brutality lies in the disorientation. The snow changes the landscape. It covers the landmarks. The familiar stone marker is buried. The fork in the road is invisible. The world is a blank sheet of paper. Imagine the panic of the traveler as the sky begins to whiten. A snow squall is approaching. The horizon disappears. The ground and the sky merge into one seamless gray-white void. This is the whiteout. There is no up, no down. There is only the cold. The traveler must rely on instinct. He wraps his furs tighter, but the frost finds a way in. His beard turns into a solid block of ice, his breath freezing the moment it leaves his lips. His eyelashes stick together. He is fighting the urge to sleep. This is the siren song of the deep freeze. When the body gets too cold, it stops shivering. A strange warmth spreads through the limbs. The mind becomes foggy. The snow looks soft, like a feather bed. Just a moment, the mind whispers. Just lie down for a moment. But to lie down is to join the silence forever. This was the reality. The winter was a predator that did not need to hunt. It simply waited for you to make a mistake. The visuals of the frozen world. But let us pull back from the danger. Let us look at the beauty of this locked world. The frost has created a crystalline kingdom. Look at a spider web strung between two fence posts. It has been frozen instantly, every thread coated in white ice, looking like a necklace of lace and diamonds. Look at the waterfall at the edge of the valley. It has stopped mid-fall. The water is petrified into a massive curtain of blue-white pillars. Behind the ice, you can hear the faint trickle of water, a heartbeat still pulsing behind the ribs of winter. The sun is setting now. The light on the snow changes from blinding white to a soft, bruised purple, and then to a deep oceanic blue. The shadows stretch out across the fields, long and distorted. The moon rises, the moon of the long night. It reflects off the snow with a brilliance that is almost like daylight. The world glitters. It is cold, hard, and undeniably beautiful. It is a world of glass. The contrast with your sanctuary. This world is locked. It is rigid. It is unyielding. But you are unlocked. Feel the contrast. Your body is soft. Your blankets are pliable. You can move your fingers and toes with ease. The air in your room is fluid and warm. The frozen river is miles and centuries away. The silent, suffocating forest is a picture in your mind, not a reality you must walk through. You do not have to navigate the ice highway. You do not have to worry about the whiteout. You do not have to fight the urge to sleep. In fact, you can embrace it. Here in your time, sleep is not dangerous. It is healing. The world locked in ice is a container. Imagine that the ice outside is sealing away all the noise, all the stress, all the chaos of your day. The ice is a barrier. Nothing can get through it. The heavy snow muffles the worries of the modern world. The frozen river stops the flow of responsibilities. Everything is paused. Everything is still. Conclusion. The traveler in our story has reached the inn. He sees the warm yellow light spilling out onto the snow. He is safe, and the landscape is left alone. The trees stand guard in the darkness. The river groans softly under the moon. The ice thickens inch by inch, sealing the world tight. It is a deep hibernation sleep. The earth is resting. It has shut down its systems to survive the brutality. You can do the same.
You can shut down. You can let the stillness of the winter forest enter your mind. Not the cold, but the quiet. The absolute, unmoving quiet. A world locked in ice. A mind locked in peace. Drifting over the white fields. Drifting over the silent woods. Drifting into the warmth. The ice holds the world still, so you can sleep. We leave the frozen river behind. We turn our backs on the silent, icy forest. We return to the safety of the dwelling, but we are not going to the great hall, nor to the bedroom. We are going deeper. We are going to the true heart of the medieval winter survival. We are going to the larder. In the modern world, food is an afterthought. It is always there, bright and packaged on supermarket shelves, regardless of the season. We can eat strawberries in January. We can have fresh lettuce in the snow. But in the Middle Ages, winter was a siege, and the larder was the armory. To understand the brutality of the season, you must understand the anxiety of hunger. But to find sleep tonight, we will focus on the opposite feeling, the profound, heavy comfort of a full cellar. The descent into the earth. Imagine a heavy wooden door set low in the wall of the kitchen or the buttery. It is banded with iron. You lift the latch, clack, and pull it open. A breath of cool air rises to meet you. It is not the biting, aggressive cold of the wind outside. It is a stable, damp, earthy cool. It is the temperature of the ground itself. You take a lantern, the flame flickering behind a thin sheet of horn. You descend the stone steps. 1, 2, 3, down into the dark. The air here changes. It is thick. It smells of soil, of salt, of dried herbs, and of thyme. You are entering the root cellar, the pantry, the storehouse. This is where the summer was captured and hidden away. The kingdom of salt. The first thing you notice in the flickering light is the meat. In a world without freezers, there was only one way to defeat the rot: salt. Hanging from the heavy wooden rafters are the hams and the sides of bacon. They are not pink and soft like modern meat. They are dark, hard, and encrusted. They look like ancient artifacts. They are covered in a layer of coarse white salt, glistening like diamond dust in the lantern light. This is the white gold of the Middle Ages. The process was brutal in its own way. The meat had to be rubbed, cured, and dried until it was tough as leather. To eat it, it would have to be soaked in water for days to draw the salt out. But looking at it now, hanging in rows, it does not look tough. It looks like safety. Each one of those dark shapes represents a victory against the winter. It represents a pig slaughtered in November, the blood month. It represents the promise that when the snow is 6 feet deep, there will still be savory fat and protein to boil into the pottage. The smell is strong, a mix of brine and hickory smoke. It triggers a primal response in the brain. We have food. We will survive.
The root cellar, buried treasure. You move your lantern lower, illuminating the floor. Here the smell of the earth is stronger. Lined up against the stone walls are wooden bins and barrels. But you do not see the vegetables. You see sand. To keep root vegetables from rotting or shriveling in the dry winter air, they were buried. Imagine plunging your hand into a barrel of cool, dry sand. Your fingers brush against something solid. You pull it out, a carrot, or perhaps a parsnip or a turnip. They are not the bright, washed vegetables of a grocery store. They are humble, gnarled, and covered in a fine dust of soil. But they are firm. They are alive. Sleeping in their sandy beds, they hold the energy of the summer sun within their fibers. There is a specific beauty to a bin of turnips in February. Outside, the ground is frozen iron. Nothing can grow. But down here, the harvest is suspended in time. You see sacks of onions hanging from hooks, their papery skins wrestling softly as you walk by. The gold and purple skins catch the light. They smell pungent and sharp, a scent that cuts through the dampness. Move further into the shadows. Here, on wooden racks, lie the apples. They are the keepers, varieties grown specifically to last through the long dark. They are not smooth and shiny anymore. Their skins are wrinkled, shrinking around the flesh. They look old. But pick one up. It feels heavy. The scent is concentrated. As the water evaporates over the months, the sugars intensify. These apples smell like cider and honey. To bite into one is to taste a concentrated explosion of October. Nearby, hanging in nets, are the dried fruits. Figs imported from the distant south, perhaps, if this is a wealthy house. Or dried plums and berries from the local woods. They are shriveled, dark, and hard. They rattle like pebbles when you touch the net. This was the texture of winter, hard, dry, chewy. The brutality of the season meant that softness was a luxury. Everything had to be hardened to survive. The mud, the water, the people, and the food. But there is a richness in this concentration. These foods are dense with life. The anxiety of the empty shelf. Now, let us acknowledge the fear. Because without the fear, the comfort is not as deep. The brutality of the medieval winter wasn't just the cold, it was the math. Every household had to be a master of inventory. The lady of the manor or the peasant wife would stand where you are standing now, counting. We have 50 days of winter left. We have 40 salted fish. We have 3 barrels of flour. There was a phantom that haunted the medieval world, the hungry gap. This was the terrible time in late winter and early spring when the stores ran out, but the new crops had not yet grown. Imagine the anxiety of seeing the bottom of a barrel, the scratching of the scoop against the wood, the rationing, the knowledge that if you eat too much today, you starve in March. This fear was a constant, low-level hum in the back of the mind, colder than the wind outside. But tonight, the barrels are full. Look around this cellar in your mind. The grain bins are heaped high with wheat and rye. The flour is soft and powdery, smelling of dust and harvest fields. The cheese wheels are stacked on the shelves, heavy discs of yellow wax, aging slowly in the dark. This is the greatest wealth a medieval human could possess. Not gold, not silk, but this. To stand in a full larder while a blizzard rages outside is to feel a profound sense of peace. The storm can scream all it wants. The frost can snap the trees. But down here, under the stone arches, you have enough. There is a deep psychological release in seeing abundance. It quiets the amygdala. It tells the nervous system that the emergency is over. The deep winter reserve is a fortress against death. The alchemy of the pot. Let's take some of these ingredients upstairs. Imagine the transition from the cool, silent cellar back to the warm, fire-lit kitchen. The contrast is immediate. The heat hits you. Now watch the alchemy of winter cooking. This is how the brutality is tamed. The cook takes the hard, salted meat and the withered vegetables. They are unappealing on their own, but then they go into the cauldron.
Water from the well, fire from the hearth. The pot hangs over the flames, black iron bubbling. The salt leaches out of the meat, seasoning the broth. The dried peas absorb the water, swelling up, turning soft and creamy. The wrinkled carrots rehydrate, becoming sweet and tender. The smell fills the house. It is a thick, humid smell of savory stew. It cuts through the dry, smoky air. In a brutal winter, a hot meal was not just nutrition, it was medicine. It warmed the body from the inside out. Holding a wooden bowl filled with thick, steaming pottage was like holding a small sun. You could feel the heat traveling through the wood into your palms. Comparison to your reality. Now, drift away from the medieval kitchen. Let the smell of the wood smoke and the stew fade. Come back to your own time. Think of your own larder. Think of your refrigerator humming softly in the kitchen. Think of the pantry shelves. You live in an era where the hungry gap has been abolished. You do not have to bury carrots in sand. You do not have to salt meat until it is hard as rock. But you can borrow that feeling of the medieval cellar. Visualize your own body as a vessel that is full. You have eaten today. You are hydrated. You are safe. The anxiety of the empty barrel does not belong to you. You have the deep winter reserve of the modern world at your fingertips. Conclusion. Let the feeling of abundance settle over you like a heavy quilt. The medieval family sleeps soundly tonight because the cellar is full. They know that no matter how hard the frost bites tomorrow, they have the bread, the cheese, and the meat to meet it. You can sleep soundly for the same reason. The survival work is done. The supplies are gathered. The world outside may be cold, but your inner world is stocked and plentiful. Picture those rows of jars, the sacks of grain, the quiet, dark safety of the earth protecting the harvest. It is a stillness that is waiting to nourish you. You are full, you are safe, you are prepared. Let the satisfaction of the full larder guide you down, deeper, into a sleep as deep and restful as the roots sleeping in the cellar sand. The meal is finished. The wooden bowls have been scraped clean. The fire in the hearth has been built up with a fresh log, crackling comfortably. But look to the window. The time is perhaps 4 o'clock in the afternoon. In the summer, this would be the golden hour, the time of high heat and harvest. But this is the deep winter. This is the time of the long night. The sun is a traitor in December. It barely skims the treetops before it plunges below the horizon. The twilight is brief. There is a fleeting moment of bruised purple light, the gloaming, and then it is gone. The world does not just get dark, it vanishes. In our modern world, we have banished the night. We flip a switch and the room is flooded with artificial noon. We have street lights that paint the clouds orange. We have the glow of screens. We have forgotten what true darkness looks like. But tonight, we are going to remember. We are going to step into the obsidian void of the Middle Ages. It was a darkness so thick, so absolute, that it felt like a physical weight pressing against the eyes. The shutting down of the world. As the light fails, the rhythm of humanity comes to a grinding halt. This is part of the brutality, the limitation of time. You cannot work in the fields in the dark. You cannot mend a fence. You cannot easily sew a tunic. The darkness forces a stillness upon the world. Imagine standing in the center of the room. As the last gray light fails from the window, the corners of the room begin to dissolve. The furniture, the heavy oak table, the benches, the chest, loses its definition. The room shrinks. The world outside ceases to exist. There is no landscape anymore. There is only the void pressing against the shutters. This isolation is profound.
You are no longer part of a village. You are a tiny island of life floating in a sea of ink. The tiny sun, the candle. Now, we introduce the weapon against the dark, the candle. In a wealthy manner, they might use beeswax, smelling of honey and summer flowers, burning clean and bright. But for most, for the common folk whose lives we are inhabiting, there is only tallow. Visualize a tallow candle. It is not a pristine white stick. It is yellowish gray, made from rendered animal fat, sheep or cow. It is soft to the touch, almost greasy. Someone strikes a flint. A spark lands. The wick catches. A small teardrop-shaped flame jumps into existence. This is the only light you will see for the next 14 hours. Focus on that flame. It is fragile. It trembles with every breath you take. It is not a steady electric beam. It is alive. The smell of the tallow candle is distinct. It is an earthy, pungent scent, the smell of cooked fat. It smokes slightly, sending a thin gray ribbon curling up toward the blackened beams of the ceiling. It is the scent of winter evenings. The chiaroscuro world. Look at the room now, lit by this single point of fire. This is a world of extreme contrast. This is chiaroscuro, the interplay of light and dark. The light does not reach the walls. It creates a small pool of gold in the center of the room, perhaps only 5 feet wide. Within this circle, everything is warm and amber-hued. Faces look soft, wrinkles are smoothed out, eyes glint with the reflection of the flame. But beyond the circle, the shadows are long and distorted. Watch the shadow of a spinning wheel cast against the wall. It stretches out, looking like a giant spider. Watch the shadow of a person standing up. It looms over the room, bending across the ceiling beams, dancing wildly as the flame flickers. The darkness feels fluid. It seems to breathe. When the flame dips low, the darkness rushes in, trying to reclaim the space. When the flame flares up, the darkness retreats. It is a slow, hypnotic dance that continues for hours. The economy of light. There is anxiety here too, a brutality of resources. Light costs money. Light costs food, for the fat used in candles could sometimes be eaten in desperate times. You do not burn candles wastefully. You do not light 3 if 1 will do. So, the family gathers close. This forces an intimacy that we have lost. Everyone must sit within that 5-foot circle of gold. The grandmother mending a sock, the father whittling a tool, the children listening, all knees touching, all faces illuminated by the same tiny sun. To step away from the candle is to step into the abyss. If you have to go to the other side of the room to fetch a blanket, you disappear. You walk into the cold, blind dark, feeling your way along the wall, guided only by memory and touch. The silence of the night. With the darkness comes the silence. The long night is incredibly quiet. The animals are asleep in the barns. The birds are gone. There is no hum of electricity, no distant roar of a highway. The silence is so deep, it rings in your ears. You become hyper-aware of the small sounds of the house. The pop of a knot in the firewood.
The scratch-scratch of a mouse behind the wainscoting. The deep, rhythmic breathing of the dog sleeping by the hearth. The wind sighing in the chimney. This silence is heavy. It forces you to turn inward. In the modern world, we are distracted by noise and light. In the medieval winter, you are left alone with your thoughts. The darkness strips away the distractions. It is a time for reflection, for prayer, or simply for staring into the fire and letting the mind drift. The first and second sleep. Because the night is so long, 14, perhaps 15 hours of darkness, the sleep patterns of the medieval world were different.
They did not sleep in one solid block like we aim to do. They had the first sleep and the second sleep. Imagine the household going to bed early, perhaps at 8 p.m. The beds are cold, piles of straw and wool. They huddle together for warmth. The candle is snuffed out. The darkness becomes total. They sleep deeply for 4 hours. And then, around midnight, they wake up. This is the watch. The brutality of the cold wakes them, or perhaps just the natural rhythm of the body. For an hour or two, the house is awake in the pitch black. But it is a quiet, peaceful wakefulness. They might stir the embers of the fire to bring a little glow back to the room. They might talk softly in the dark, lying in bed. They might pray. There is a strange magic to this midnight hour. The world is completely asleep, locked in ice. But here, in the dark burrow of the house, there is a secret pocket of life. It is a liminal space between dreams and reality. And then, as the cold settles deeper, they drift back off into the second sleep, which carries them through until the gray dawn. The fear and the stories. We must acknowledge that the darkness held fear. In a world without science, the night was filled with monsters. The long night was the season of ghosts. The shadows in the corner looked like spirits. The howling wind sounded like banshees. But this fear was managed through stories. This is where the tradition of the winter tale comes from. Imagine the voice of an elder, low and rumbly, telling a story as the candle flickers. The darkness actually helps the story. It acts as a canvas. When the storyteller speaks of a dragon, the shadows on the wall seem to take the shape of wings. When he speaks of a dark forest, the gloom in the corner of the room becomes that forest. The darkness binds the listeners together. They are safe in their circle of light while the monsters roam outside in the cold. It creates a feeling of us against the world. The weight of the bedclothes. Eventually, the candle burns down. The wick falls into the pool of hot grease and drowns. The light goes out. Now there is only the firelight glowing red through the ash, casting a faint, bloody glow on the floor. It is time to fully surrender to the dark. You climb into the bed. In the medieval winter, the bed is a fortress within a fortress. It is surrounded by heavy curtains, velvet or thick wool, to keep the draft out. You pull the covers up. Not just one blanket, but heavy furs, sheepskins, and rough wool quilts. The weight is immense. In the modern world, we like light, fluffy duvets. But there is a comfort in the heavy weight of medieval bedding. It presses you down into the mattress. It swaddles you. It creates a sensation of being buried, safely and warmly. The darkness inside the bed curtains is absolute. You cannot see your hand in front of your face. But this is not scary anymore. It is restful. It is a void that demands nothing of you. Transition to your night. Now, let us leave the medieval darkness behind. Let the candle flicker out in your memory. Return to your own room. Notice the difference. Your darkness is not heavy. It is not filled with the fear of spirits or the anxiety of dwindling candles. Your darkness is a choice. You have turned off the lights to rest. But you can borrow the coziness of that medieval circle. Imagine that you are lying in that heavy curtained bed. Imagine the weight of the furs pressing down on your legs, grounding you, making you feel secure. Imagine the absolute silence of the snow-covered world outside your window. No cars, no sirens, just the wind and the stars. The shadows of the long night are not enemies. They are guardians. They wrap around the house, hiding it from the cold universe. They wrap around you, hiding you from the demands of the day. The flame is gone. The smoke has drifted away. The embers are fading to black. The medieval world is asleep. The first sleep has begun. The darkness is soft. It is like velvet against your skin. It fills your ears with silence. It fills your eyes with rest. You are floating in the safety of the shadow. The long night is here, but it cannot hurt you. It can only hold you. Drift into the quiet. Drift into the deep, dark, ancient peace. We have spent a long time out in the cold. We have walked the frozen river. We have stood with the sentry on the windy wall. We have huddled in the drafty corridors where the stone sweats ice. But now the journey brings us to the center of the world. Imagine you are walking down a long, vaulted stone passageway in the castle. The air here is still chilly. You can see the faint white puff of your breath in the dim torchlight. The floor is hard and cold beneath your boots. The shadows are deep. But ahead of you, at the very end of the corridor, there is a line of golden light. It spills out from beneath a set of massive double doors made of dark, iron-bound oak. You can hear a sound coming from behind those doors. It is a low, rhythmic hum. It sounds like the ocean, but warmer. It is the sound of life. You reach the doors. You place your hand on the iron ring. It is heavy, but you push. The mechanism groans, the hinges turn, and the doors swing open. And then you are hit by the wall of heat. Crossing the threshold into the great hall is a physical shock, but a beautiful one. It is the feeling of unclenching a fist. For the last few hours, your body has been tight. Your shoulders were hunched against the wind. Your jaw was set against the frost. Your muscles were shivering to generate heat. But the moment you step into this room, that tension evaporates. The air here is not thin and sharp like the outside. It is thick, it is rich. It presses against your skin with a tropical weight. It feels like walking into a warm bath. The light changes instantly. Your eyes adjust from the monochrome gray of the winter night to a world of liquid gold. Everything in this room is bathed in amber, orange, and deep, comfortable reds. You close the heavy doors behind you. Boom. The sound is solid. The latch falls. The draft is cut off. The winter is gone. You are inside. The roaring hearth. Your eyes are drawn immediately to the source of this magic. In the center of the great hall, or perhaps against the long wall, depending on the castle, is the hearth. This is not a modern fireplace. This is a cavern of fire. The stone opening is large enough to stand in, and the fire inside is a beast. It is a pyramid of massive logs, whole trunks of oak and beech trees that were dragged in from the forest. Watch the fire. It is mesmerizing. The release of entry. Crossing the threshold into the great hall is a physical shock, but a beautiful one. It is the feeling of unclenching a fist. For the last few hours, your body has been tight. Your shoulders were hunched against the wind. Your jaw was set against the frost. Your muscles were shivering to generate heat. But the moment you step into this room, that tension evaporates. The air here is not thin and sharp like the outside. It is thick, it is rich. It presses against your skin with a tropical weight. It feels like walking into a warm bath. The light changes instantly. Your eyes adjust from the monochrome gray of the winter night to a world of liquid gold. Everything in this room is bathed in amber, orange, and deep, comfortable reds. You close the heavy doors behind you. Boom. The sound is solid. The latch falls. The draft is cut off. The winter is gone. You are inside. The roaring hearth. Your eyes are drawn immediately to the source of this magic. In the center of the great hall, or perhaps against the long wall, depending on the castle, is the hearth. This is not a modern fireplace. This is a cavern of fire. The stone opening is large enough to stand in, and the fire inside is a beast. It is a pyramid of massive logs, whole trunks of oak and beech trees that were dragged in from the forest. Watch the fire. It is mesmerizing. The release of entry. Crossing the threshold into the great hall is a physical shock, but a beautiful one. It is the feeling of unclenching a fist. For the last few hours, your body has been tight. Your shoulders were hunched against the wind. Your jaw was set against the frost. Your muscles were shivering to generate heat. But the moment you step into this room, that tension evaporates. The air here is not thin and sharp like the outside. It is thick, it is rich. It presses against your skin with a tropical weight. It feels like walking into a warm bath. The light changes instantly. Your eyes adjust from the monochrome gray of the winter night to a world of liquid gold. Everything in this room is bathed in amber, orange, and deep, comfortable reds.
You close the heavy doors behind you. Boom! The sound is solid. The latch falls. The draft is cut off. The winter is gone. You are inside the sanctuary. The roaring hearth. Your eyes are drawn immediately to the source of this magic. In the center of the great hall, or perhaps against the long wall, depending on the castle, is the hearth. This is not a modern fireplace. This is a cavern of fire. The stone opening is large enough to stand in, and the fire inside is a beast. It is a pyramid of massive logs, whole trunks of oak and beech trees that were dragged in from the forest. Watch the fire. It is mesmerizing. The flames are leaping 4-5 feet into the air. They are not frantically flickering like the candle we watched earlier. This fire has momentum. It has power. It roars with a deep, throat-clearing sound. Whoosh, crackle, pop. The base of the fire is a bed of glowing coals, a pulsing heart of intense ruby-red heat. The logs are black and charred on the outside, but where they break open, they reveal a brilliant molten orange interior. The heat radiating from this hearth is immense. If you were to walk toward it, you would feel it pushing against you like a solid hand. It dries the dampness from your clothes instantly. It warms the blood in your veins. The smoke rises straight up, drawn by the massive chimney, carrying with it the gray ghosts of the winter, leaving only the pure, cleansing heat below. The scent of survival. As you move closer to the fire, another sense is awakened, the smell. After the sterile, odorless cold of the snow, the great hall is a symphony of scents, and it is the smell of sustenance. A spit is turning over the fire. On it roasts a side of venison, or perhaps a wild boar hunted in the autumn woods. The meat is browning, the fat rendering and dripping down into the fire with a hiss. Sss. Each drop of fat that hits the coals sends up a puff of aromatic smoke. It smells of savory meat, of wood smoke, of rosemary and thyme rubbed into the skin. It is a heavy, greasy, delicious smell. It speaks to the primitive part of your brain. It says, the hunt was successful. The larder is open. You will not starve. Intermingled with the meat is the smell of bread. Loaves of dark rye and wheat baked on the hot stones of the hearth. The crusts are thick and dusted with flour. The scent of yeast and warm grain fills the air, sweet and grounding. And there is something else, spices. In a lord's hall, there would be wine warming by the fire, mulled with cinnamon, cloves, and nutmeg. These exotic scents, brought from thousands of miles away, drift through the room, adding a layer of luxury to the survival. The tapestry-lined walls. You look away from the fire to the walls. In the corridors, the stone was bare and sweating, but here the stone has been dressed. The walls are lined with tapestries, huge woven woolen murals that hang from the ceiling to the floor. This is not just decoration. This is medieval insulation technology at its finest. Remember the wind outside? The wind that sought every crack in the mortar? The tapestries stop it. They create a dead air space between the freezing stone and the warm room. Look at the scenes woven into the wool. They rarely depict winter. They show gardens in full bloom. They show ladies sitting in meadows of flowers. They show the green leaves of eternal summer. By looking at them, you are mentally transporting yourself out of the bleak midwinter. The fabric softens the room. It absorbs the echoes. It makes the great hall feel like the inside of a jewelry box, lined with velvet, soft to the touch. If you were to lean against the wall now,
You would not feel the bite of the limestone. You would feel the rough, warm texture of the wool. The draft is defeated. The chill is walled out. The floor of summer. Look down at your feet. You are not walking on cold flagstones. The floor is strewn with rushes. These are dried grasses, reeds, and herbs scattered thickly across the floor. Meadowsweet, lavender, and chamomile. When you walk on them, they crush softly under your boots. They release a faint, summery perfume. It smells of dried hay and flowers. It is the scent of a July meadow, preserved and brought inside to combat the January gloom. This layer of organic material acts as a carpet. It insulates your feet from the ground. It makes the room feel organic, as if you are walking on a dry, soft forest floor rather than hard rock. The sound of safety. The Great Hall is not silent like the forest, but it is not noisy. It has a specific acoustic quality. There are people here, the lord, the lady, the knights, the servants, but the winter has mellowed them. The meal is over. The frantic energy of the day is done. The soundscape is a low, comforting murmur. Voices are kept low, respectful of the peace. A dog barks softly in his sleep by the fire. A log shifts in the grate with a heavy thump and a shower of sparks. Perhaps in the corner, a minstrel is playing. Not a lively dance tune, but a slow, melancholic ballad on a lute. Pluck, hum, pluck. The notes float through the warm air, mingling with the smoke, weaving a spell of relaxation. This is the sound of the pack. You are surrounded by your people. You are not the lonely traveler on the ice anymore. You are part of the collective warmth. There is safety in numbers. The physical sensation of thawing. Find a place to sit. There is a heavy wooden bench covered with furs, bearskin or sheepskin, thick and soft. You sit down. You extend your legs toward the fire. Now feel the thaw. It starts in your toes. The numbness begins to fade, replaced by a tingling sensation, and then a deep, throbbing warmth. It moves to your hands. You unclench your fingers. The stiffness leaves your joints. Your face, which felt like a mask of ice earlier, begins to flush. The heat from the fire feels like a gentle massage, smoothing out the tension in your forehead and your jaw. You unfasten your heavy cloak. You don't need it tight anymore. You let it fall open. The heat reaches your chest. You take a deep breath. The air is warm and smoky. It warms your lungs. This is the sanctuary. The brutality of the winter is what makes this moment so exquisite. If you had not felt the bite of the north wind, you could not appreciate the caress of the fire. The sanctuary fortress. As you stare into the flames, your mind settles. The Great Hall is designed to make you feel small, but protected. The ceiling is high, lost in the shadows and the smoke. The walls are thick. The doors are barred.
You realize that nothing can get in here. The blizzard can rage. The wolves can howl. The river can freeze solid. It doesn't matter. Here, in the circle of the firelight, civilization is intact. The light pushes back the dark. The heat pushes back the cold. The food pushes back the hunger. You are in the center of the fortress. You are in the safest place on earth. Let the image of the Great Hall surround you. Imagine you are that traveler, sitting on the fur-covered bench, eyelids growing heavy. The heat is making you drowsy. The sound of the lute is lulling you. The rhythmic roar of the fire is a white noise that drowns out all thoughts. The sanctuary is not just a room in a castle. It is the room you are in right now. Your bedroom is your great hall. Your blankets are your tapestries. Your warmth is your hearth. You have reached the destination. The journey through the cold is over. You have found the fire. The fire is warm. The room is safe.
The night is outside. You are inside, drifting deeper into the warmth, watching the sparks rise, listening to the crackle, feeling the peace of the sanctuary. The fire in the great hall is roaring, a caged beast of heat and light. But now it is time to withdraw. It is time to prepare the body for the long rest of the night. In our modern world, we think of clothing as something light, something barely there. We wear synthetic fabrics that breathe and stretch. But in the brutal winter of the Middle Ages, clothing was not just fashion. It was architecture. It was a mobile fortress. Tonight, we focus on the sensation of being wrapped up. We focus on the layers. To survive the cold, the medieval person did not just inhabit a house. They inhabited a cocoon of natural fibers. As you settle into your own bed, imagine the feeling of constructing this sanctuary around your body. It is a ritual of weight. It is a ritual of protection. We are going to build the warmth layer by layer until the cold is nothing but a distant memory. The first layer, the linen. It begins against the skin. Beneath the heavy outer shells, the medieval world was soft. The first layer is the linen shift or undertunic. Visualize the fabric. It is woven from the fibers of the flax plant, grown in the blue-flowered fields of the summer. It has been washed, beaten, and bleached by the sun until it is white and supple. Linen is unique. When you first put it on, it feels cool, crisp, and smooth, like a sheet of cool water. But it warms instantly to the body. It becomes a second skin. It does not scratch, it glides. In a world of rough stone and freezing iron, this layer is the gentle promise of civilization. It creates a boundary of air right against your chest and arms. It is dry. It smells faintly of lavender from the chest where it was stored. It is the foundation of comfort. The second layer, the wool. Now comes the weight, the wool. Wool was the currency of the Middle Ages, the gold of the peasantry and the kings alike. But tonight, it is simply heat. Imagine pulling on a heavy woolen tunic or gown over the linen. Feel the difference in texture. The linen was smooth. The wool is complex. It is thick. It has a tooth to it. It is a fabric with substance. This is not the thin, machined wool of a modern suit. This is broadcloth. It is dense. It has been fulled, beaten in water until the fibers lock together, and then brushed with teasels until it is fuzzy and soft. When the wool settles onto your shoulders, you feel the gravity of it. It pushes down gently. This is the beginning of the deep pressure. Wool is alive. It comes from the sheep that graze the high hills, animals designed by nature to withstand the blizzard. When you wear their fleece, you are borrowing their survival. There is a faint, comforting scent to real wool. It is the smell of lanolin, the natural oil that makes the fiber waterproof. It is a warm, musky, organic scent. It smells of the earth. It smells of safety. As the wool warms up from your body heat, it locks that warmth in. It traps the air in millions of tiny pockets between the fibers. You are now walking around in your own personal climate. The draft from the corridor may hit you, but it stops dead at the wool. It cannot touch you. The third layer, the fur. But for the deep winter, for the brutal nights, there is one final layer, the fur. You wrap a cloak around yourself. It is lined with the pelts of animals. Perhaps it is squirrel, soft and gray. Perhaps it is fox, thick and russet. Or if you are a lord of the north, it is the heavy, shaggy fur of the bear or the wolf. Fur is the ultimate insulator. Reach out in your mind and stroke the lining of this cloak. Your hand sinks into it. It is not just a surface, it is a depth. You can feel the dense, soft undercoat near the leather and the longer, silky guard hairs on top. When you pull this cloak tight around you, the sensation is primal. It is the feeling of being held. The fur creates a seal. It touches your neck, your wrists, your ankles. It fills every gap where the cold might try to enter. The weight is now substantial. You are carrying 10, maybe 15 pounds of clothing. But this heaviness is not a burden. It is a relief. It grounds you. It tells your nervous system that you are armored. The nook by the fire. You are fully wrapped. You are a bundle of linen, wool, and fur. You move to a seat by the fire, perhaps a window seat carved into the thick stone wall, lined with cushions. You sit. You pull your knees up. You tuck the fur cloak around your legs, creating a tent of warmth. This is the moment of cozy versus brutal. This is the sweet spot of winter. Comfort is relative. You cannot truly feel cozy unless you know what uncomfortable feels like. And the medieval world offers the perfect contrast. Listen, outside the heavy wooden shutters, the world is ending. The bite of the north wind that we spoke of earlier has returned. It is screaming around the corners of the tower. It is battering against the stone. Whew, rattle, thud. You hear the wind tearing at the thatched roofs of the village below. You hear the branches of the old oak tree whipping against the castle wall. You hear the sleet hitting the glass of the small window pane. Tick, 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 like handfuls of gravel being thrown by an angry spirit. The sound is violent. It is chaotic. It is the sound of freezing to death. But you are inside. The contrast makes the warmth feel sweeter. Every howl of the wind makes you pull the fur tighter. Every rattle of the shutter makes you sink deeper into the wool. You are witnessing the brutality, but you are not participating in it. You are the observer in the tower. It creates a feeling of smug satisfaction. The storm is trying so hard to get you. It is expending all its energy, raging and blowing and freezing, and it is failing. You are winning. The wool is winning. The stone is winning. The visuals of firelight on texture. Open your eyes in the dim light. Look at the fabrics you are wearing. The firelight is dancing across your knees. Watch how the light interacts with the textures. On the wool, the firelight gets absorbed. The fabric looks deep, matte, and fuzzy. The shadows in the folds are soft and blurry. It looks like a landscape of soft hills.
On the fur, the firelight sparks. It catches the tips of the guard hairs. As you breathe, the fur moves slightly, and the light ripples across it like gold dust on water. It looks alive. On the linen of your sleeve, peeking out from under the wool, the light creates sharp, clean shadows. It is a visual feast of softness. There are no hard edges here. Everything is round, draped, and folded. The visual softness matches the tactile softness. The sensation of heat. The fire is close. You can feel the radiant heat hitting the wool. Wool loves heat. It absorbs it. The fabric itself seems to get hot, holding the energy like a battery. When you shift your position, you feel that stored heat moving against your skin. Your face is hot from the fire, but your back is cool against the stone wall, cushioned by the tapestry. This temperature gradient is delicious. It keeps you awake just enough to enjoy the drowsiness. You are a creature of the hearth now. You are part of the ecosystem of the fire. The deep pressure of the past. Let's go deeper into the sensation of weight. In our time, we buy weighted blankets to help us sleep. We have rediscovered what the medieval people lived every day. The weight of the heavy cloak, the weight of the thick tunic, the weight of the lined boots, it presses down on your muscles. Feel your shoulders drop. The weight of the wool is pulling the tension out of them. Feel your legs relax. The heavy fur is pinning them gently to the cushion. This pressure signals the brain to release serotonin. It slows the heart rate. It deepens the breathing. The brutality of the winter required heavy defenses, but those defenses had a side effect: profound relaxation.
You are swaddled like an infant. You are held by the materials of the earth. The smell of the storm and the hearth. Breathe in. The air in your nook is a complex mix. You smell the wood smoke from the fire, acrid and dry. You smell the beeswax of the candle guttering on the table. You smell the warm wool and the lanolin. You smell the roasted meat from dinner, lingering in the background. But every now and then, a draft sneaks through. A tiny, thin ribbon of cold air. It smells of ozone. It smells of snow. It smells of the clean, sharp, empty night. That tiny scent of the storm is the reminder. It is the pinch that proves you are dreaming in safety. It highlights the warmth. It makes the wood smoke smell richer. The hypnotic state. The wind howls. Whoosh. The fire cracks. Pop. The wool warms. The fur softens. You are suspended between the two worlds, the brutal white world outside and the golden soft world inside. You begin to drift. The sound of the wind is no longer scary. It is a lullaby. It is a drone. It creates a wall of sound that blocks out thoughts. You don't have to think about the harvest. You don't have to think about the frozen river. You don't have to think about the wolves. You only have to think about the texture of the fur under your hand. Stroke it. Soft, smooth, warm. You only have to feel the weight of the cloak on your shoulders. Heavy, grounding, safe. Transition to the final rest. The fire is burning down to embers now. The bright flames are settling into a deep, pulsing red glow. The room is getting darker. The shadows are getting longer, wrapping around you like another layer of wool. It is time to move from the chair to the bed. But you will take this warmth with you. You will take this feeling of being armored in softness. The brutality of the medieval winter has been defeated by the ingenuity of the loom and the needle. The sheep and the fox have lent you their coats. The forest has lent you its wood. You are a warm spark in a cold universe. The wind can howl all night. It does not matter. You are wrapped, you are heavy, you are cozy. Drifting, drifting. Let the weight pull you down. Down into the softness. The journey is complete. We have witnessed the gray sky turning to iron. We have felt the bite of the wind on the battlements. We have walked the frozen river and chopped the frozen wood. We have retreated through the heavy doors, past the tapestries, and into the sanctuary of the hearth. But now, the story itself is growing tired. The energy of the day has been spent. The brutality of the winter has been held at bay for another 24 hours. Now comes the reward. It is time for the deep slumber. In the medieval castle, the transition to sleep is a slow, ceremonial shutting down of the world. It is not a sudden switch. It is a gradual fading. The quieting of the great hall. Imagine you are the last one awake in the great hall. The minstrel has packed away his lute. The servants have cleared the trestle tables. The dogs have curled up into tight balls of fur in the corners, their breathing heavy and rhythmic. The roaring fire we watched earlier has changed. The leaping yellow flames are gone. The aggressive roar has quieted to a soft, pulsing murmur. The logs have collapsed into a heap of glowing coals. They are a deep, intense ruby red, the color of a setting sun. A servant moves quietly around the perimeter of the room with a metal snuffer on a long pole. Pfft. One candle goes out. Pfft. Another. With each extinguished flame, the shadows step forward. The room feels smaller. The ceiling disappears into the gloom. The tapestries lose their color, becoming soft, gray walls of texture. The castle is closing its eyes. The ascent to the chamber. You rise from your bench. You are heavy with warmth. You are heavy with food. You are heavy with the deep, natural fatigue that comes from surviving the cold. You take one small hand candle to light your way. You leave the hall. You walk up the spiral stone staircase. Your footsteps are slow. Scuff, step, scuff, step. The air in the stairwell is cooler, but you are still wrapped in your wool and fur. The shadows from your candle spin around the curved walls, dancing with you. You reach the heavy oak door of your bedchamber. You push it open. The bed, a room within a room. Inside, the room is dark, save for the embers in the small fireplace in the corner. But dominating the room is the bed. In the Middle Ages, a bed was not just furniture. It was a destination. It was a room within a room. It is a massive four-poster structure carved from dark walnut. But you cannot see the mattress yet. It is completely enclosed by heavy velvet curtains. They are drawn shut to keep the warmth in. This is the ultimate fortress. The stone walls of the castle keep out the enemy and the wind. The wooden walls of the room keep out the draft. But the velvet walls of the bed keep out the world. The ritual of the warming pan. Before you enter, there is one final act of kindness against the brutal winter. A servant has been here before you. They have taken a warming pan, a brass container filled with hot coals from the fire, and they have slid it between the sheets.
They have moved it up and down the mattress, ironing out the cold. When you pull back the heavy curtain, a puff of warm air escapes. It smells of lavender, scattered in the linens, and faint hot brass. The bed is waiting for you. It is a heated nest. The shedding of the layers. You set your candle down. Now you begin to shed the armor. Off comes the heavy fur cloak. You feel lighter instantly. Off comes the thick wool tunic. The weight lifts from your shoulders. Off come the boots. Your feet are free. You are left in your soft linen shift. You are vulnerable now, but you are safe. You move quickly. The air in the room is chilly compared to the bed. You climb up. The mattress is not a modern spring mattress. It is a feather tick, a massive bag filled with goose down. It is thick, billowing, and incredibly soft. You sink into it. You do not just lie on a medieval feather bed, you lie in it. It rises up around you, cradling your hips, your shoulders, your head. The enclosure. You pull the heavy quilts up to your chin. These are not light duvets. They are weighted blankets of wool and patchwork. They press you down into the feathers. And then you close the velvet curtains. You are sealed in. The darkness inside the bed is absolute. It is a soft, velvety blackness. The air inside this canopy is warm and still. It is your own microclimate. The brutality of the winter is now 3 layers of defense away. It cannot touch you here. The sound of the castle sleeping. Lie still in the darkness. Listen to the house. A castle at night is a living thing. You can hear the wind outside, but it is muffled now. It sounds like a distant ocean, miles away. Whoo! It reminds you of the cold, which makes the warmth of the feathers feel even more luxurious. You hear the stone settling, creak, tick. The building is adjusting to the drop in temperature. It is a solid, reassuring sound. It is the sound of strength. You hear the crackle of the last log in the fireplace across the room. Snap, a lullaby of carbon. And then, silence. The deep, heavy silence of a world without machines. No hum of a refrigerator, no distant traffic. Just the silence of the snow-covered earth. The connection to history. As you lie there, drifting, think of the thousands of people who slept in this way. They slept to recover. They slept to escape the dark hours. They surrendered to the sleep completely. In the Middle Ages, sleep was a time of travel. They believed the soul left the body to wander. They gave themselves over to the slumber of the ages. You are part of that line now. You are feeling the same relief they felt.
The relief that the work is done, the wood is chopped, the door is barred. The sun will return, but not for many hours. For now, there is only the dark and the warmth. The bridge to your reality. Now, slowly, let the velvet curtains dissolve. Let the feather mattress change. Let the stone walls fade away. Come back to your own bed. Come back to now. But bring the feeling with you. Feel the gratitude washing over you. The people of the medieval winter had to fight for this warmth. They had to earn it with axes and fire. But you have been given this warmth as a gift. Feel the air in your room. It is perfectly regulated. The thermostat watches over you like a silent guardian. You did not have to worry about the fire going out. You are safe. Feel your mattress. It supports you perfectly. Feel your blankets. They are clean, soft, and warm. The brutal winter is just a story now. It is a painting you have looked at and put away. You are the beneficiary of centuries of struggle. You are the one who gets to rest without fear. Lie still in the darkness. Listen to the house. A castle at night is a living thing. You can hear the wind outside, but it is muffled now. It sounds like a distant ocean, miles away. Whoo! It reminds you of the cold, which makes the warmth of the feathers feel even more luxurious. You hear the stone settling, creak, tick. The building is adjusting to the drop in temperature. It is a solid, reassuring sound. It is the sound of strength. You hear the crackle of the last log in the fireplace across the room. Snap, a lullaby of carbon. And then, silence. The deep, heavy silence of a world without machines. No hum of a refrigerator, no distant traffic. Just the silence of the snow-covered earth. The connection to history. As you lie there, drifting, think of the thousands of people who slept in this way. They slept to recover. They slept to escape the dark hours. They surrendered to the sleep completely. In the Middle Ages, sleep was a time of travel. They believed the soul left the body to wander. They gave themselves over to the slumber of the ages. You are part of that line now. You are feeling the same relief they felt. The relief that the work is done. The wood is chopped. The door is barred. The sun will return, but not for many hours. For now, there is only the dark and the warmth. Lie still in the darkness, drifting, safe, warm, asleep. Good night. Good night.